So, welcome everybody to our today's workshop, Make Your Innovation Partnership Succeed, with the leading question, how to do successful R&D partnerships between academia and industry. We want to talk today about R&D partnerships because in the past we conducted a lot of interviews with partnership managers and we found out that established collaborations can be a different task, especially if there are different types of partners. For example, academia, startups, or established industry partners. They're all engaged at the same time in the collaboration. There might be some problems. And in this workshop, we have representatives from two of the main sides, one from academia and one from industry. And I'm really curious for the upcoming discussion about their point of view regarding these topics. So our today's agenda will be a short introduction of our speakers. Then we will give you a short introduction about the topic R&D partnership, what is important, a short introduction about ourselves, what is Poster Lab, what we are doing, what we want to do. Afterwards, we will go on with the moderated discussion between our two guest speakers. And in the next part, there will be a question and answer session, which I'm really looking forward to have with you because most of you are also engaged in the topics with partnership management. So I would be very happy if there's like an intensive discussion between all the attendees and the speakers. So please feel free to use these few minutes to ask the questions and get in contact with our guest speakers. And in the end, we will have a short closing and a thank you to all. So, but let's start with our first guest speaker, Lucca. I'm very happy that you're here today. Do you want to introduce yourself for a minute?
All right, so thank you very much for the invitation to engage in this discussion and also to give my point of view from academia and also where I see it's going forward with R&D partnership. So I'm associate professor in innovation management at the University of Southern Denmark. We call it SDU. And I'm also heading our educational program, Master of Science in Engineering, Product Development and Innovation. So you can sense that R&D collaboration is hugely important for us as a university, both related to our research, but also related to our educational programs. I also hold some chairs. So we have an industrial cluster in Denmark, which is called CLEAN, and I'm a member of the innovation board, and that is also focusing on circular economy and reuse of materials across different sectors. And then we also have something called SDG Collaboratorium, where we focus on the 17 world goals. So this is also how we can then move on by not just doing business as usual, but also doing better in many new ways. So this is me, and you can see that I have a quote saying knowledge dissemination as a key driver to academia and to innovation, but also a challenge both within organization and also between different types of organizations.
Okay, thank you, Lucca. Very, very impressive. I'm really looking forward about what you're going to say in the discussion with our second guest, Max Riedel. I'm also very happy to welcome you today here. Do you also want to introduce yourself?
Yes, if my unmute works. Now it does. Hi, everyone. Okay, thanks for having me as well. Glad to be here. My name is Max Riedel. I'm heading the ZEISS Innovation Hub at KIT. So ZEISS is I hope many of you know the company. It's a company in optics, optoelectronics. And the ZEISS Innovation Hub is a industry on campus project. We are having a team of currently 15 people here on the KIT campus, working with partners at KIT, but also other academic partners around Europe to basically turn today's research into tomorrow's applications that are relevant for ZEISS, and that could become a business for ZEISS in the future. I joined ZEISS only 2 years ago, or a little bit more than 2 years ago, to build up this hub, so it's a quite young project. Before that, I was a key account manager at Siemens for the partnership between Siemens and the Technical University of Munich. My let's say scientific background is in physics, actually in quantum technologies, where I also was part of setting up the quantum flagship project, a big funding project regarding quantum technologies. And in all these roles, of course, partnership between university and industry is the key. And so I'm happy to share my experience and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Max. I'm also really looking forward for your experience in the discussion. And I would go on and give the word to Sebastian to introduce all the attendees a bit more about the problem in partnership management between academia and industry. Sebastian, stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Max and Lucca, for being here today. We already had discussion with each other. We actually selected Max and Lucca because they know very much the topic of today. They are professional. They are, let's say, doing these topics every day. So it was important for you to bring you, let's say, the right expertise for today. So about, let's say, PosterLab. So I'm Sebastian. I'm one of the 3 co-founders of PosterLab. And all what we are trying to aim at PosterLab is to solve, let's say, one of the big problems that is associated with partnerships is how to make collaboration, knowledge transfer and collaboration better. Because today there's more and more innovation partnerships that are being done. Let's say according, let's say, the academic papers and the discussion we have done, there's 15 to 25% more innovation partnership being done every year, in between corporation and academia, in between corporation, academia, and startups. So it's definitely a strategic tool for corporation, for partnership, for academia, let's say, to bring innovation to market because of the need to have interdisciplinary knowledge to be brought together and to leverage each other's capability. But on the other end, and this is also what we want to discuss with Max and Lucca today, is that it's quite challenging thing, let's say, to bring different organizations to work together towards a common goal. There's about 50 to 70% of the partnership, of these innovation partnerships, that are failing, which is a huge rate and has tremendous impacts on finance, for sure, on the dedicated resources that this company put on the table for 1, 2, 3, or 4, or even more years. Usually innovation, let's say, takes a bit of time. And it can also have impact on the brand itself. And as I said at the beginning, as partnership is one of the most important strategic tools, it's important for corporation to be perceived as a partner of choice. Because there's so many competition, people can decide to partner with one organization instead of another. So you really want to show that you can handle partnership in a most effective way. The other thing that we are also seeing a lot is that there is a shift from, let's say, what we say the innovation stage gate, let's say the good old stage gate innovation management system, towards more agile innovation management. And this is also impacting the way partnerships are being dealt. And this is also something we are going to cover with you today. And this is the platform based on all this input, based on all the discussion we have. We are developing a platform to actually aim at solving this problem and make a proper platform for corporation, for academia, to have an overview of their partnerships, of their projects, so with whom they are partnering with, what are the capabilities, what are the know-how that can be transferred, and in the end, provide a place for this collaboration to happen, so that we can know who knows what within the corporation and provide a place for them to discuss. So if I may quickly, I can quickly show you what we are working on, and then we will switch to Max and Lucca. So this is our overall platform that you can see. The overall idea is to really provide the right platform for partnership to be successful. And like I explained, it starts from a partnership portfolio view. Who are my project partners? With which project are we working on? Is it aligned with my long-term vision, with my innovation roadmap? And then the places for cooperation to happen. But to make it, let's say, more clear, I'm going to quickly show you my screen, and then so that you can see what I'm talking about here. Let me know when you see my screen. Maybe Henrik, do you see my screen yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Now it's loading.
Okay, very good. All right, so this is a platform we are working on. And this is also a platform for which, for the time being, we are also looking for a corporate pilot partner to keep on, let's say, developing it with them to be sure we have the right solution. The whole idea is that with the two pillars, like I mentioned, pillar number one, for the innovation manager, let's say the leader, innovation leader, is to have an overview of who are my partners and what I'm doing with them. So the idea is that we have a very straightforward funnel of these are my partnerships and at which stage are they. So it's very easy for me as a vice president of innovation or inside of alliance, inside of partnership to know what are the partnership I have right now on the table. And for example, here I have the different stages, but that can be different from one company to another. And I can go directly into one. And I can say, okay, we are doing a partnership that is about precision farming. There's some keywords, there's a company that are involved, and the same for the other partnership that I have as a corporation. And then when I go into it, I can quickly see, okay, who are the person that are working in this partnership? So I can see the people within my organization, I can see the people that are working with me on the academia side, on the startup side, so anyone that is working with my company on this specific project. I can see also any kind of document that have been signed, MOUs, NDAs, or any other contract. And I can also have a more detailed overview of the people, all the people that are within these partnerships, all the organizations that are related to these partnerships, an ecosystem map, which is always useful. I used to use it myself when I was innovation manager for two large companies to really have an overview of who are my key stakeholders inside and outside that can influence the success of my partnership. So you can see the internal and external stakeholders. What is important and what we've seen as well, and I guess Lucca and Max are going to talk about it, partnership is all about being aligned to a common goal on one end. So in order to achieve this, you have to be clear. What do we want to achieve? But we have to have it on a kind of high level. So this is the milestones that we have in mind. These are the people that are involved, some kind of a work package, but it should not be too much detail. It should be very much to keep people aligned along the way. And anytime there's somebody else jumping into this project, so you have a clear understanding where we want to go to. And then a messaging system, a chat system, because one of the main struggle is when you partner with external organization is what kind of innovation, communication system can you use? Maybe one organization use Teams, one organization use Slack. Under the system here, we can have a proper place for the communication and the knowledge transfer to happen. So it was just a quick overview of what we're working on. Like I said, we are looking for product partners, let's say, to help us keep on designing and developing the solution, and also maybe even feedback on our roadmap. I'm going to end it here, going back to our speaker, because this is the most important here. Up. Thank you. Henrik, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Before we switch to our speakers, I got a short question or two short questions to our attendees right here. So I will post a link in the chat. It will lead you to menti.com. This is like a tool to engage with people in such a workshop. And I would be really happy if you join me there and answer me two questions. I will share my screen as well. So, okay. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, if you follow the link I posted in the chat, or you go to menti.com and enter this code, because I'm really interested in what is your position here today. Okay, there's one business developer. I appreciate it very much. Me as well. Okay, fine. I will wait a few seconds more, but there's a strong trend visible. Like most of us are really into the topics of innovation and alliance management. Researcher, wow, nice. Okay. Thank you very much. This helps us a lot to adjust a bit the discussion later on. And I'm really happy that there are so many people who have experience in the topics of innovation. And based on this, I want to ask you another questions. So what are your expectations for this session today? You can use the same code and the same link I posted in the chat. Some reflections. Okay, perfect. What I see now, understanding best practices, solutions for the main pain points, get some clues to better value academic alliances. This fits perfect to our today's agenda and to our speakers. And I'm really looking forward for the discussion. And now we switch to our main content, to Lucca and Max. And I will stop sharing my screen. So, Lucca, Max, are you ready? Okay, let's start with the first question for you guys. Why are academic industry partnerships important for your point of view? Lucca, you prepared a presentation, right? Do you want to share it and start with your point of view, and maybe Max, you can react on this? Or how do you want to start?
I can try to share it, but you're also welcome to share it if you want, Henrik. I mailed it to you, so.
Okay.
But I can try. Let me just.
Yeah, please try. It's fine.
Let's see if something happens. Can you see something?
Yes.
Some things. Yeah.
Yes, it's loading. Yeah, we can see it.
Can you see this R&D partnership from the view of academic?
Yeah. Exactly.
And can you see the next one? A drawing?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, we can see it.
So it's actually why are academic and industry partnership important from my point of view, from the point of view from academic, which is based on research and innovation? Well, as I see it, we have this knowledge triangle, and this knowledge triangle is kind of important. So we as the university, we sort of are in between this triangle where we see innovation and new technology emerging. And this is often what we see. We both have it in universities, but often it's in collaboration, and often it happens in industry and in companies, because they're very focused on also what we call the commercialization of new technologies, so taking them into practice. And then we're navigating in this field called research, how to implement new technology, how to implement them in our processes, whether it's health or whether it's environmental practice. I mean, all kinds of disciplinary fields, we see new technologies emerging. And from that, how can we then also navigate with our research, bringing in new knowledge to market, but also educate and train for the future of the new educational programs. So we are sort of navigating within what we see this as the knowledge triangle. And if you sort of take the premises of this knowledge triangle, well, then it's hugely important for academic to leverage and integrate education, research, and our engagement in order to increase both the contribution to higher education, but also public research institution, and then make innovation happen. And also we hear about economic growth, but economic growth also in a responsible manner. So these are my bullet points for the first question.
I think I can basically mirror that from the industrial side, so to say, right? I mean, for me, the difference between technology and research and innovation is not that big, because, of course, as a company, we always, or let's say as a high-tech company, we want to turn research and technology into innovation. So it's kind of just, it starts as a technology and then becomes an innovation, hopefully, let's put it this way. You can, of course, come also the other way around. You can come from a problem of a user or of somebody out there and think what could be a suitable solution to that. Doesn't always have to be technology. But if we're talking about collaboration with universities, from my point of view, it's about getting to know or getting access or having collaborations with partners, with experts in certain technologies. I think especially in those where the company is not yet excellent, and basically see to be ahead of the curve, right? I mean, the reason for us being on the campus of the University of Karlsruhe, of KIT, is that we are looking into things that ZEISS is not good yet, that we cannot do yet, but people in the research community can, and that we basically see what could be new things for ZEISS in 10, 20 years from now. There are other aspects to collaboration with university, of course. Not everything has to be so on the far horizon. And of course, education, or let's say the flip coin of it for companies of talent, right, is of course also a big topic. So that resonates in general, but I would say from a company perspective, usually it's two things: learning or getting access to expertise, sometimes also infrastructure, something like clean rooms or special devices, test devices or so. And then let's call it access to talent, right? Getting in touch with young people and with talent in the end.
Okay, nice. Thank you very much. So you said, Max, that the collaboration between university and industries in some points very, very important for ZEISS. And do you got something like rules for success that these collaboration can work out, or are there maybe also some critical points which sometimes cause problems in the collaboration between academia and industry, because I think there may be some different motivations behind the collaborations of those partners?
Yep. So I would say there's different levels of collaboration, right? You can be very transactional, where you know exactly what the partner has to offer and what you want from the partner. And in that cases, it's maybe a little bit easier. I mean, there are still things like different timescales, like different expectations and so on. But when I'm thinking about partnerships, I'm really thinking about more strategic things that basically have a lot of different aspects to them, not just one project. And there, I think it's extremely important. I think Sebastian mentioned it in the beginning that you really be clear about your common goal. So are you really talking, what are the both parties mainly interested in? Is it mainly getting the students real world experience, and for the company basically sourcing of talent? Or is it really this far term innovation? Or is it more
Is it okay to try to share some slides again?
Sure, please.
And while he thinks, I can talk. Let me see. So I put in 3 rules, or you can say it 3 rules of thumb. So it's more like general guidelines, I would say. So what should be considered while building such partnerships? And I would say, so the first, from my perspective, mutual interest in learning and in the outcome as well. So it's both interest in the process about learning new stuff, but definitely also in the outcome. And that has to be mutual from both sides. So often, or maybe you could say that if academia is only interested in the knowledge, but not in the outcome, then you're creating some tensions. So both should be interested in the outcome, what actually comes out of it, what should be the end goal, what should be the purpose of this collaboration, because it's kind of important that collaboration is seen as a mean to an end. So it's very much about having this defined goal, and then also this mutual interest of learning. Then we can say agreement on ownership. I do agree with this with trust, but usually it's very important that we actually have an agreement from the very beginning. One of those partnership that I have forthcoming in 2022, I'm very happy that it's with a company, and we have actually, they have agreed that there will be no NDA, no a contract agreement of non-disclosure agreement. So it actually means that I'm allowed to talk about it. I can publish around it. And this is something which is really important for me to actually take on a task and help them with a new design strategy within design for circular economies. So that is one of the high values for me, and I put that in, that this should be part of the contract. And they're very much in the outcome, if they can have a practical design guide that can be implemented. And then the other thing we discussed about, well, one thing is having a strategy about an R&D collaboration, but it's also important that a strategy is a live tool. So how do you keep it alive? Not just something which is written down, but how do you keep it alive and include people in that process? And for me, one of the key words is co-creation, so that we also know what are each person's role in this. And then we think about it as a co-creation process. So it's not about this work package where you just have deliverables, but it's also about the co-creation process. And I think I mentioned this already, but collaboration as a mean, and its importance, it should not be seen as a quick fix. Collaboration takes time, and it should also be that that from both sides that we are interested in trying out this collaborationship, because maybe or maybe not, but definitely there are some prospects for the future, and time will only tell if there are prospects for the future or if you withdraw. So sometimes it's also good that you have this collaboration and you think big with prospects for the future, but maybe start small to actually get to know each other. Because as I also hear Max saying, it's very important with these defined roles. What is it that, for instance, is the collaboration with university because we want something tested in the labs? Then that should be specifically mentioned that this is an important thing. And this is the added value that comes out of it. But maybe we don't know all this from the beginning. So sometimes it's a good way to start a bit small to actually learn about what it is and have these roles defined. Yeah. I'll stop presenting.
So I mean, what you said, starting small, thinking big, that is very true, I would say, because thinking big is important, so you know what's the purpose of your collaboration. Is it more than just the, let's say, commonly supervised master thesis? But on the other hand, the commonly supervised master thesis is really the first step into getting to know each other and building that trust and then getting to know if you can work with the other person. I had once I lost the thread. Well, let's continue.
But I would agree, because sometimes we do have different types of collaboration. So you can say, yeah, there are students collaboration and they are often for free, because from an academic point of view, they're financed via our educational effort. So we are being paid to supervise our students and so forth. But often the companies are actually interested in getting the senior knowledge. And this is also, you know, this is where the safe knowledge is, because it is a risk having collaboration with students, because you don't know about the outcome. But if you make collaboration with the seniors, or we do agree or have some kind of experiment and some experiences about the outcome. But that is also very important, that then it's not financed by our educational effort. Then it's our research time. So of course that is not free, that you would have to pay for it, or we would have to find a way around finding some finances, public funding, private funding, or it can actually also be directly financed, but then it has to be written down in a contract. So there is actually also a question in the chat, and I think this is a very good question and a good timing, saying from business perspective, what is the best way to connect with university to start discussions on partnering and collaboration? And I think it's very important to find that person or 2 or 3 person that you think have some knowledge which is interesting. And it can be difficult to find them, but you can definitely use the web pages on the university and type in some keywords. Maybe you meet people here in discussions like this, or maybe takes one of these one point of entry, and they would be able to help you. Because I think it's very important to find the seniors, and often the seniors, yes, we can set up what we call spin-in projects, where we actually can say, okay, let's start out with some master thesis project, because then it's also an opportunity to learn each other, build and see if there's mutual interest. But then I think the company should also be willing to actually see that there is a difference from these more risky or more experimental with the student, and then getting the seniors on board.
Shall I? I mean,
yeah.
Let's comment on that right away, right? Because
yes.
So I don't know exactly. Also, we are a small group in the. I don't know if Keith, you have actually. Maybe you wanna say a bit about the question exactly, because we're a small group. Maybe
Sure. Yeah, I've popped on a video. Hi, everybody. So I work for a company called Genpact, which is a professional services firm. So we're looking at helping customers, big clients, and how they should do finance transformation, digitization of their processes, or third-party risk management. We also do some stuff in sustainability. Yeah. And I get this sense that we should be working more with academia. And we do have, so our Chief Innovation Officer, Gianni Giancamelli, he actually works in MIT, but Genpact's a 100,000 employee company, and therefore, you know, it's hard to bring all that to bear. And I get the sense that we should be doing more local connections. And it's really just trying to find out, do you have to have an idea to start with, or can you reach out to people and figure out a way to actually, yeah, okay, if we work in the finance space, there's project work already ongoing, right? Let's connect the dots and then we can create a partnership. Does that work, or is that like, you know, so it sort of feels like, you know, is it a needle in a haystack, or does that typically work? I hope that context.
No, I think that approach, I mean, first of all, of course, if you have that idea, if you have a certain task, challenge, whatever, and then you approach somebody, I never heard, you know, the response like, oh, that's not interesting, go away. There's always, of course, the interest from the academic side. So if you have a very concrete question, task, it's easy. But you're saying, you know, we have a general interest in that area and how to engage. And one format we have actually established now also during COVID is, we call it a virtual coffee with Professor XYZ, where we just, you know, in a very informal way, invite people to give a 20-minute talk about what they're doing. And then we invite other people from around the company who we think might have an interest in that topic, and invite them for that talk and have a discussion afterwards. And that's a, you know, a very easy way. It doesn't take too much time. It's a early way to engage. On the other hand, usually from this you don't get very much commitment. So then you have to, but it gives you a nice way to like have a virtual institute visit, right? And then if you really think that is interesting, then you can follow up. But usually our guests then are also very open, you know, then you can say, you know, I heard about that and that, you're working, you know, we're also working in this direction. Isn't that something we should look at together? And that gets the conversation started. So by just, you know, inviting people who you think they might fit somehow, and make it very clear that the expectation of the meeting is not to, you know, to right away to get into a big project, but just to get to know each other. That's why we explicitly also named it For a Coffee With, so you have that right expectation. So that's one way we like.
I was thinking for this specific proposal or this specific topic for academia, especially also here at our University of Southern Denmark, we have something called Research and Innovation Office, which is sort of a one-stop shop. And for there, it could be a good example to actually do a little PowerPoint, like a short PowerPoint, and then actually send this to one of our persons from, we call them RIO, Research and Innovation Officers, because they usually know what's going around and they can sort of be a broker in that aspect. And they maybe also hook up with some of the researchers who would find this interesting for a dialogue. And this is how it usually goes around. But I also think that this is a cool question because it actually opens up to utilizing some of the digital tools and also what Poster Lab is actually trying to do, because it is as often finding a needle in the haystack, or you team up with the usual suspects. And usually it's your third link, which is actually maybe the successful team up and not the direct first link. So I think it's actually interesting how we can also utilize some of the digital tools to actually open up. So it's not the usual suspect, but how can we actually do it and have a supportive system next to what we already have as a one-stop shop.
Yeah, it sounds good. And we've also at Genpact invested quite heavily in a learning platform. We call it Genome.
Yeah.
And so again, there's potential connection to loop some more, cutting edge academic research coming through and add them into some of the programs we've started to construct within that.
Yeah.
So again, that's another kind of angle that we could maybe connect people into some of these things. So thanks for that. I might reach out to you, Lucca, on the Research and Innovation Office. That sounds like quite an interesting concept.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Thank you very much.
But I think that Lucca, you're right. I mean, we also at KIT they call it industrial relationship management, same thing. And exactly, you can just go there, say, what at KIT, what are the things happening there in the area of whatever, battery research, and then they have either they have kind of already a list because they had the same question from other people, or they compile it for you.
Yeah, but I actually like the idea, Max, what you and I both said from the beginning, also as advisors, or at least we agreed on it, that sometimes think big, but start out small. And I really think, sometimes you're being set up, like matchmade with somebody, and yeah, you don't know them, and you don't know if it's a match made in heaven or it's your worst nightmare. So it's also sometimes it feels like, yeah, we're being matchmade, and then we should, set up a project and put in all these finances and stuff like that. I actually think the way and also the trend is going that start out small, start out by these experiments. And maybe when, for instance, like Keith, you will be matched by, let's say, 6 different researchers from 3 different universities, then maybe think small, then start up, and then see which one then you would go with. So do a small experiment. I think that could be a small box of money, like what we call it, like a cigar box or pocket money, to maybe get this up and running, and then see which one where there is this mutual interest, where do it actually work before you then invest. I think that would be a good idea, because we all know that sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yep.
Okay, great. Lucca, you already started to teaser it a bit.
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys. How do you think digitalization can help you with these tasks? Like Max already introduced like the coffee with approach, but is there can you imagine a way how digitalization can help you more in these topics?
Do you want to start, Max?
You're muted, Max.
You're muted, yes.
Okay. I hit the button, but apparently it didn't work. Okay. So I was hesitating because I think that, yes, I mean, Lucca, you mentioned contracts a couple of times. Of course, you have to have that. Yes, but I think even if you have a contract and you don't have the slow buildup of a relationship, of a trust, then it still might not work. I mean, then you can still fulfill your contract, but and building this trust happens through personal connection, right? So I'm very skeptical. I have to be really honest about digital tools for, matchmaking, for replacing virtual conferences and so on. On the other hand, if you have a working relationship and you are in a project, I think it makes it much easier nowadays. We used to, drive for small meetings around the country or around the world, basically. And because it was kind of expected also. And now we all came to the conclusion, it's not necessary. For some things, the personal contact is necessary, but especially if you have that connection already, you can do many things digital. And then this enables us, of course, to now look much broader in the world and look much beyond, your local partners, so to say. Yeah, that would be the one thought.
Yeah, I think it's cool with some digital tools who can actually help do the connecting the dots. So we're on LinkedIn, we have these platforms from the university, we participate in conference, but usually when we participate in conference with knowledge dissemination, this is not where the industry are. Then we sometimes have something called industrial clusters, but that usually, then you need to be a member of this industrial cluster. So it is, I think also it could be cool that there would be more open forums where also setting up these small informal coffee chats around a topic where we can actually, just more or less, drop in and give a viewpoint of it, or listen in, or something like eardrop on it. I think that could be cool in relation to all the other networks and what we usually have. So some kind of support for that. And the other thing would be, it would be nice that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. So it would be really nice that it would be grounded in best practice, so that we actually know what works and what doesn't work, so we don't have to start all over again. For instance, just to say that when we talk about contracts, I mean, sometimes when we're working with industries, there are big contracts and there are small contracts. And I mean, the way to go fast is actually that the company would accept our small template, the very fast up and running contract, which is just a template where we can easily agree, and then we go for this for a more experimental road, and then we can always go with the around the others. So I think it's also interesting to actually build some fast tracks, if you can call it, for these small experiment, getting to know people, so that this could be a platform for moving beyond a collaboration with the usual suspects.
And one more thought about digital tools. Now, in the collaboration, sharing knowledge, sharing files, sharing results, sharing also communicating used to be much more frequent and much more, I mean, although of course everybody has their own, I mean, we're working digitally since decades, right? But not really in the cloud, so let's say. And now, and even if you work in the cloud, you have your own cloud, and your partner has a different cloud, and it always is a hassle exchanging documents, exchanging information. And this is why, I mean, really, if I haven't seen it yet in action, but if what you promised with PosterLab, that you can somehow connect Slack with Teams and others tools, I think that would be an extreme advantage, because every organization has their own tools, and it's always a hassle to invite somebody else. It never works somehow, and either party never has the right rights. And if that could be made easier, that would be a huge advantage. So I think already Slack and Teams and all these things are a huge step forward in communication. Now, if we could have one common tool, that would be even better.
Stay tuned. We are working on it with full power. Okay, please.
May I ask a question, Henrik?
Sure, please go on.
There's one thing coming back on the partnership and the academia. I mean, several alliance manager and partner manager we talked to in the chemistry and pharma were told us that, compared, let's say, to even 2 to 5 years ago, right now there is much more partnership being done in between academia and corporation. Do you see this trend as well on your side? Do you see this growing and growing compared to some years ago?
To be honest, I don't. In Siemens and Zeiss, I don't see it. It's not pharma. I would say it's rather constant. It's on a high level, but it's rather constant. So no, but it's not the pharma. I hear that in pharma, it becomes more and more difficult and costly to fill the pipeline with new
drugs,
with new pharmaceutical basic Wirkstoffe, right? And that might be one reason for that.
What do you think, Lucca, on your side?
Excuse me?
On your side, do you see, let's say, more and more company going after university, after you to engage?
That's also what I hear, and that was basically from my previous job working with health innovation. And this also seems that because you can see that there are really good labs. I think we also go back to there are really good labs at the universities. And I also think that this is one of the strengths from academia and universities, that they will do the experiments in the labs. And then you can actually see what works and what doesn't work. And then it's interesting for the companies to then come in and then, pick which one they want to invest in. And I actually think there is also a similar trend within new technologies, that we also work with new technologies, whether it's digitalization or it's robotics for automatization, that these are done in lab with experiments, and we can do simulations, and then the companies actually have to come in, and then there need to be this investment to take it further.
Okay, that's good to know.
So I think it is really interesting to see what is actually happening in the labs, which one, whether it's technology or whether it's drugs or compounds, what actually works in the labs, and doing simulation and then see what is there to invest in. And I do know that often companies, they would like to get a list. What do you have in your lab? What are you actually working on, so that they can actually say, okay, are there something to invest in? And I think that is a bit difficult also, because universities also likes to do innovation and claim ownership.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit about opening the bag when is actually a good timing. So I think, yeah, there is a trend, but to actually build relationship, it actually comes back to if there's a mutual interest in learning and in the outcome, and then also to have the discussion about ownership.
Yeah. Coming back on the question of case and what you just said, I mean, there is a lot of universities, there's a lot of labs that are working on similar topics, and let's say if you really want to engage, like Kes said, I mean, you need to dedicate resources to have someone that is going to identify the potential universities, reach out to the right professors or to the right ROI. It's going to deserve a lot of time. So coming back on the point also of Max was saying that, okay, there is a lot of matchmaking systems out there. There's more and more, as I can see in myself. I mean, digital solution, a lot. I've counted something like 12, and it's growing every day. There's a new platform that promises to put you in touch between academia and corporation. But do you have some platforms you use yourself that are good? I heard about InPart, for example, or the platforms that you think are good and can be given as tips or to the audience.
InPart is indeed the one I'm also using, and they have quite good offers. And what I also like is they are a little bit pushy. They have to be, of course, but not too much, right? It's they have the right feeling. The matchmakers, so to say, have the right feeling of when to push and when to, accept that I might say, we looked into it. It's not so super interesting. We don't want to engage further. And then they don't try to sell you something. I like that very much. And another tool, it's not a platform, but a tool that I like to use is Scopus. So that's a paper database. But it is really a nice tool to basically, you can do statistics. So you basically search for keywords and you get papers, but you can do statistics on the papers. And that's the nice thing. Then you can basically see who are the top authors in the field, who are the top institutions, and so on. And that one, it's not really written for that purpose, I think, but I like to use it a lot.
Yeah, I found one recently that is also seems to be a good one. Is IED. Sorry, it's an organization that is having, let's say, that is listing all the EU calls and EU tenders. And you have a lot of academias and companies. And if you see as a company, as academia, you see a tender that you would like to apply to, but you cannot go alone because EU actually asks you to come with another parties, you can go into their database and look for actually companies or academia that match, let's say, the kind of skills of capability you would like to have to apply to a EU and tender and EU call, and we are actually in contact with them to work together so that we can provide our customers an access to their platform and vice versa. But I will put the link into it because I found it's this one. In part, I heard a lot about them, and IED could also be of interest.
It could also be good to hook up with where there are funding, like both private and public funding. So when there is like a theme, let's say digitalization, then also there would be some hookups to some of these platforms where there would be some funding opportunity. That could also be nice, because that's sometimes it is a driver for setting up collaboration.
On the other hand, I have to step in here a little bit, because I think in many cases, people form a consortium to go for the same honeypot. It's more we somehow have to build up a consortium, especially in EU. We have to, we now have to find somebody not from Germany because we need a third country. And we now have to find another industry partner because we have to have an industry partner in it. And somehow often I have the feeling, people are just doing what they just looking for another funding pot to finance what they are doing anyways. And I'm not a big fan of these consortia because what we mentioned at the beginning, have a common goal and know what you're working for. Often they first form the consortium saying, oh, let's go for that call together. And then only when they write the proposal, they are now in the abstract, we have to write something. Why are we actually doing this? Let's come up with something, right? And that's exactly what I think should not be the way. And also how, if you go into such a consortium and you work with them you basically commit for 3 years, it's quite a long, that's the typical runtime of a project, right? It's quite a long time, 3 years, if you don't have that common goal. So
but Max, I think you're referring to some of these EU calls. So it doesn't have to be these EU calls. And sometimes, you don't have to team up with them, but it actually gives you some kind of a sense who's working within this area. So sometimes it's actually just a good source of information.
No, there I completely agree.
You don't have to team up with, because I actually think if you have all these rules of thumbs that we talked about, if there is mutual interest between companies and academia, and we can set up a nice framework where both academia feel safe, they can publish about it, and there's mutual learnings and there is good outcome from the company. If that actually works, why not just go with it? Then we don't need to look for public funding or private funding. We can just go with it and set up this experiment, because if the outcome is an investment, then you can actually see then it is a good investment, and just go with it, just set it up. But it's just sometimes these are also good sources to actually see who's doing what. Just like we do when we're working in companies, we're also looking at the competitors. So it's actually also sometimes a good source of information.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry to interrupt this discussion now, because it's really, really interesting, but I want to give the attendees a last chance to ask questions to our speakers, to Lucca, to Max. So if there is a question, please take a chance now. Otherwise, I will share my screen again for a second. So, first of all, I want to say a really, really big thank you to Lucca and Max and all the attendees, and really for the good question, Keith. Thank you very much. And as you may know, we are currently developing a solution for R&D partnerships. And we are really, really looking forward to find some pilot project partners to co-develop our platform to the needs of our pilot partner. And if you're interested in this, please reach out to us. This is the contact of Sebastian. Or what you anyways can do is follow us on our channels, for example, on our LinkedIn channel. And we will continuously publish information about what we are doing or about more informations, how to do partnerships, and for maybe new upcoming workshops as well. Okay. Are there any questions?
Sorry. No. Okay, but thank you again, Lucca and Max, and thank you to the attendees and for the questions.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great day, and maybe you are going to do something together with both, let's say, your SDU and ZEISS. We never know. So that's,
Lucca, actually, we should look into circular economy together, because that's something we're also.
I'm in.
Let's get in touch afterward.
Yeah, I'm in. Also with digitalization and robotics.
Very good.
Perfect. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Have a great day. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.